How could something so small, so common, be worth more than most homes in America? The answer lies in a mistake. A minting error so rare, so easily overlooked, that even seasoned collectors missed it for years. And yet one man, sorting through loose change on an ordinary night, spotted the tiniest irregularity, a faint, almost ghost-like inscription, writ. 3 letters that transformed an ordinary cent into a once-in-a-lifetime miracle, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers who had dismissed the 2002 Lincoln penny as modern pocket change were suddenly scrambling. Auction houses received anonymous phone calls. Whispers spread of a hidden batch that might still be out there, buried in piggy banks, rolled up in dusty drawers, waiting for the right pair of eyes to see what others missed. Why does this coin matter so much? Because it never should have existed. In 2002, the Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents. But a microscopic engraving flaw, etched during die preparation, produced a handful with an impossible mark, writ. No one knows how or why. Some say it was an engraver's test that slipped through. Others believe it was a deliberate act, a rogue imprint left behind as a message, a signature from a mint worker who knew the chaos it would cause. Collectors were shocked. This was no ordinary doubling error, no faint misstrike. It was something entirely different, something that shouldn't even be possible. And when the first example surfaced at auction, the crowd gasped as the numbers climbed higher and higher. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. Until, at last, the hammer fell at an unbelievable $1.6 million. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. And the strangest part? Experts believe more of these coins exist. Maybe only a dozen, maybe only 5. But if even one more surfaces, it could rewrite the record books again. But here's the catch. The detail is so subtle, most people will never notice it. Imagine staring at a penny, convinced it's worthless, when in truth you're holding a fortune. The writ inscription is barely visible. It's not bold, not clean. It almost melts into the metal. Some examples show the letters only under magnification, others look like faint scratches, dismissed by anyone who doesn't know what to look for, and yet, this tiny detail is why it's worth millions. A single overlooked mark. A shadow on the coin's surface. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on it, scouring collections, buying entire rolls of 2002 Denver pennies, hoping lightning will strike twice, but the story doesn't stop there. Because there's another twist. Many fakes are already flooding the market. Unsuspecting sellers, lured by dreams of instant wealth, are polishing ordinary pennies, carving false letters, trying to mimic the impossible flaw. But true experts know the difference. Real writ pennies have a texture, a weight, a metallic flow that can't be forged. Which means if you're lucky enough to spot one, authentication is everything. So how do you identify the real treasure? Start with the basics, the year 2002. The mint mark D for Denver. Then, look closely, just above and to the side of Lincoln's bust. There, under the right light, under patient eyes, the ghost of writ reveals itself. Not bold. Not obvious. Almost like a whisper from history, collectors who've seen it describe the moment as electric, like discovering buried treasure in plain sight. Dealers call it the holy grail of modern cents. And experts agree, it is one of the most mysterious minting errors ever recorded in U.S. history. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that old jar of pennies that's been sitting untouched for years, don't just glance. Look closely. Because inside that pile of copper and zinc, there may be a coin worth more than your wildest dreams. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's the 2016 Red D Mint Mark Lincoln penny. And the story behind it reads like a secret chapter of American treasure hunting. Some call it a mistake. Others call it a miracle. But for those who know the truth, it's the kind of discovery that can turn pocket change into a life-changing fortune. At first glance, this penny looks just like any other from 2016. Copper-plated zinc, Abraham Lincoln's proud profile, and a Denver Mint mark beneath the date. But under the surface lies something no machine was ever supposed to create. A mysterious lettering, a faint, almost ghost-like impression near the date that appears to spell writ. Nobody in the U.S. Mint has ever confirmed how it happened. Some whisper it was a die clash. Others suspect it was a rogue engraving, slipped through an error. And still, others believe it was intentional, a secret test strike that should never have entered circulation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In late 2021, a collector at a small Midwest coin show pulled this penny out of a dealer's junk box. Price tag? $1. He looked closer. Something about the date didn't sit right. Under magnification, the strange letters appeared. W. R. I. T. He bought it immediately. Days later, the coin was authenticated by one of the nation's top grading services. And when it went to auction, bidding didn't just climb, it exploded. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors were shocked, some refusing to believe it could be real. But the hammer price silenced every doubter. Over $1.5 million. For a coin that nearly went back into circulation as pocket change, and here's the detail that makes this story even more unbelievable. Experts believe only a handful exist. Some say fewer than 10. That means right now, there could be one hiding in a coffee can, a coin jar, or even in your own wallet. And if you find one, you're not just holding a penny. You're holding a miracle worth $1 million, but why does this strange lettering matter so much? Because minting errors are the holy grail of coin collecting. Most mistakes are minor, doubled letters, off-center strikes, small cracks in the die. But when a coin carries a mysterious, unexplained feature, especially one that appears to be intentional, its value skyrockets. The Rit D penny is more than just an error. It's a mystery no one has solved. And that unknown adds fuel to the fire of its desirability. But what happened after the first sale was even more dramatic. Rumors spread fast. Dealers claimed they'd seen another example years earlier but passed it off as damage. Collectors began scouring rolls of 2016 pennies, searching every detail under magnifying glasses and microscopes. Stories surfaced of people tearing open bank-wrapped rolls, staying up late into the night, hoping lightning would strike twice, and then, it did. A second example surfaced in California, found in a simple coin jar on a kitchen counter. This time, the owner nearly spent it at a gas station. But something caught his eye, the odd shimmer near the date. He checked online, compared it with auction photos, and realized he might be holding a second $1 million penny. Within weeks, his coin, too, was verified. The market went wild again. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another family's kitchen drawer became a treasure chest. And experts believe this is just the beginning. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The Rit impression is faint. Some examples appear sharper, while others are ghost-like, almost invisible unless tilted under the light. The key is to look carefully around the date, especially to the right side of the numbers. A genuine coin will show the strange lettering raised, not scratched. If the marks look cut into the surface, it's damage. If they rise above the coin's fields, you could be staring at history. Collectors warn of one big mistake: don't confuse this with common die chips or circulation scratches. Many pennies from 2016 have tiny blemishes that mean nothing. The Rit D signature is different. It carries a deliberate look, like letters whispering a secret. So here's the lesson every collector must take to heart: check every 2016 Denver Lincoln cent you find. Search through jars, rolls, even that dusty drawer where pennies pile up. Because the next one discovered could change your life. Imagine the feeling. You bend down to pick up a penny off the sidewalk. You toss it in your pocket. Later that night, you glance closer and your heart skips. The mysterious letters are there. Suddenly, you're not holding 1 cent. You're holding over $1 million. The story of the 2016 Rit D penny isn't just about money. It's about possibility. It's about the thrill of discovery, the magic of history colliding with everyday life. It proves that even in our modern world, treasures still hide in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to notice. So take a second look. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Think about that. A coin so ordinary, so small, the kind you toss in a change jar without a second thought, hiding a secret that could change someone's life forever. The year is 2018. Millions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses, shining copper plating on ordinary zinc blanks. But among them, a microscopic mistake, an error so rare, so bizarre, that it transformed a single penny into $1 million treasure. At first glance, nothing looks unusual. Just another Lincoln Memorial design, just another cent marked with a little D for Denver. But look closer. Collectors began whispering about a strange coin surfacing in circulation, the so-called 2018 writ error. Why writ? Because on the motto, "In God We Trust," part of the lettering was warped, distorted, almost rewritten by the dies themselves. The tiny word looked broken, fractured, and that tiny fracture became the key to a fortune. A collector in the Midwest pulled one from pocket change and nearly spent it at a gas station. Something told him to look twice. Under the right light, he saw the bizarre writ effect. He didn't know it then, but he was holding the first verified specimen, a penny that would go on to shake the entire numismatic community. When the coin crossed the block, jaws dropped. Bidding wars erupted. The gavel finally fell at over $1.4 million. And that single moment rewrote what collectors thought was possible in modern coinage. But here's where the story gets even more mysterious. Experts still debate how the error happened. Was it a die clash? A misaligned hub? A freak accident no mint worker ever noticed? No one truly knows. And that mystery only fuels the legend, and yet, while only one verified example has sold for over $1 million, whispers of more lurking in circulation continue. Imagine, somewhere in America right now, someone could be spending a fortune at the grocery store without realizing it. On an authentic 2018 writ penny, look closely at the motto, "In God We Trust." The TRU seems warped, almost rewritten, with the T and R fusing in a strange, unnatural way. That single lettering anomaly is the hallmark of the $1 million mistake, but beware, plenty of ordinary 2018 pennies flood circulation. The copper sheen might fool you into thinking you've struck gold. Counterfeiters even try to scratch or alter coins to mimic the error. But nothing compares to the genuine writ strike. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on pocket change, magnifying glasses in hand, desperate to spot that warped lettering. Coin forums explode with rumors of new finds. Every day, someone posts a blurry photo, hoping and praying that their penny is the miracle. So here's what to do: check every 2018 penny you come across, especially those with a D mint mark. Hold it under strong light. Focus on the motto. If you see the letters shift, split, or look misshapen, don't spend it. Don't toss it in a jar. You might be holding a seven-figure treasure, and remember this: ordinary people discover extraordinary coins every single year. It isn't always the rare gold pieces or the ancient relics that bring life-changing money. Sometimes, it's a single cent overlooked, underestimated, until one collector dares to look a little closer. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's a Lincoln penny, ordinary to the untrained eye, stamped in 1985. But buried in its copper glow is a secret so rare, so shocking, that dealers and collectors are still whispering about it decades later. The truth is, the US Mint never meant for this coin to exist. In 1985, minting technology was changing. Die varieties, mint marks, and engraving flaws crept into circulation unnoticed. And somewhere inside the Denver Mint, one mistake slipped through the cracks. A tiny error, hidden in plain sight, that would transform a single penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But here's the part that stunned collectors everywhere: that mistake is nearly impossible to spot unless you know exactly where to look. For years, people spent these pennies without a second thought. They clinked in soda machines, rattled in piggy banks, vanished in junk drawers. And yet, one of them, a coin carrying a bizarre writ-style misstrike and a mint mark anomaly, would later be pulled from circulation and land in the hands of a sharp-eyed collector. Dealers were stunned. How could a coin worth a single cent command a price that could buy a house, a fleet of cars, or secure someone's retirement? The answer lay in its flaws. Its microscopic imperfections. It's one in a billion story etched in metal, and here's the chilling part: experts believe more of these 1985 D oddities are still out there, sitting unnoticed in rolls of pennies, tucked away in old coffee cans, maybe even in your change jar right now. The answer is in the mint mark. In 1985, the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies. But some, instead of bearing the crisp D as intended, show an eerie, distorted mark struck in a way that almost reads like writ, a bizarre phantom impression created by an overused or damaged die. To most people, it looks like nothing. To a collector, it's a golden ticket, and that's not all. The lettering, too, carries telltale signs: subtle doubling, a faint ghostly outline around the letters Liberty, a distortion that only appears under magnification. These are the whispers of a minting error that the US Mint would never acknowledge, but collectors know changes everything. One man pulled a handful of pennies from his pocket, not expecting anything unusual. But when he laid them under the light, one coin gleamed back differently. Its mint mark looked twisted, unnatural. At first, he thought it was damaged. Then he thought it was worthless. But curiosity drove him to a dealer. And that visit turned a penny into a life-changing miracle. The coin graded out as an authentic, one-of-a-kind variety, and within months, headlines were screaming. The auction room erupted. Dealers fought with raised paddles. And when the final bid struck, a humble penny had crossed the $1 million threshold. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. Most people who stumble across these coins never realize what they're holding. They think it's damage. They think it's worthless. They spend it, throw it away, or let it gather dust. And that's the tragedy: life-changing wealth slipping right through their fingers. So here's the truth you need to know if you ever hold a 1985 penny in your hand. First, flip it and check for the Denver D mint mark. If it looks distorted, smeared, or oddly formed, don't ignore it. Look closely at the word Liberty. Is there doubling? Shadows around the letters? Even a faint outline could mean you're staring at a fortune, but beware, countless fakes exist, and not every error penny carries value. The difference between a damaged coin worth a cent and $1 million rarity is razor thin. That's why experts recommend professional grading. Without certification, even a treasure can be dismissed as junk. Still, the fact remains. Somewhere out there, in an old drawer, a forgotten jar, or a bankroll waiting to be opened, another 1985 D-Rit error penny could be waiting. And the person who finds it may hold in their hands not just a coin, but a miracle. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. We're talking about the mysterious 1991 Lincoln penny with a hidden error so rare, most collectors never even knew it existed. Some call it the $1 million penny. Others call it a miracle. The story begins in the US Mint, 1991. A year when billions of ordinary Lincoln cents rolled off the presses. But tucked inside those mountains of copper-plated zinc coins, a mistake was born. A mistake so small, it was invisible to nearly everyone who held it. Yet that microscopic flaw would transform a single penny into a treasure worth more than a luxury home. Collectors were stunned when the first whispers surfaced. Could it be true? A simple Lincoln cent, worth just 1 cent in change, suddenly commanding 6, then 7 figures at auction? Most dismissed it as myth. But then, the proof appeared. A dealer came forward with a coin that looked, at first glance, like any other 1991 penny. Same familiar Lincoln portrait. Same shield-like reverse. But then he tilted it under the light, and there it was. A ghostly, misplaced mint mark, struck in the wrong place, in the wrong way. A die error so shocking that experts at first refused to believe it had left the mint. Grading companies verified it. Auction houses erupted with excitement. Collectors scrambled to get their hands on this ghost coin. And when the hammer finally fell at auction, jaws dropped. That one copper red cent sold for a staggering $1.2 million. Now here's where the story gets even stranger. This was not supposed to happen. The Denver Mint was phasing out certain die placements, tightening quality control, making sure errors like this never slipped through. Yet somehow, one coin survived. It was almost like destiny, a single survivor carrying a hidden mark of imperfection that would rewrite coin collecting history. And here's the part most people miss. The error itself is so subtle, you could look straight at it and never notice. Thousands of collectors may have already spent one without realizing it. Dealers warn that this coin can disappear in plain sight, hiding in junk boxes, rolled coins, or even inside your dresser drawer. Imagine finding it. You set aside a jar of pennies for years, never thinking twice. Then one day you spot it, that strange little anomaly in the mint mark, the one detail that turns your penny into a fortune. Collectors have compared it to winning the lottery. But unlike lottery tickets, this treasure could be sitting in your home right now, waiting for you to recognize it. The true $1 million 1991 penny carries a D mint mark for Denver. But not just any D. On this coin, The mint mark is misplaced, struck incorrectly during production. Sometimes it appears doubled, sometimes faintly shifted, sometimes punched where it never should have been. To the untrained eye, it looks like a smudge, but to experts, it's the golden key. The rest of the coin looks perfectly normal, and that's what makes it so deceptive. That's why most people overlook it. They toss it back into circulation, thinking it's just pocket change. But to a trained collector, that tiny, almost invisible imperfection transforms an ordinary cent into a $1 million masterpiece. If you think you might have one, experts urge caution. Counterfeits and ordinary pennies with damage are often mistaken for the real thing. Never clean the coin. Never alter it. Instead, send it to a trusted grading service for authentication. Because if you truly hold the exact 1991 mint error penny, you're holding history. Collectors still whisper about the day that coin crossed the auction block. The tension in the room, the stunned silence when the price leapt past $500,000, then climbed higher and higher. Until at last, the gavel fell at $1.2 million. A 1-cent coin, turned into a life-changing fortune. Nobody knows how many escaped the mint. Some say just one. Others believe a small handful could still be circulating, waiting to be discovered in a roll from the bank, or rattling inside an old coffee can. Every collector's dream is to be the one who finds it.so the next time you see a dull penny on the ground, or count your change at the store. Remember this story. Remember that hidden inside the most ordinary pocket change, miracles can exist. And that miracle could be yours, because the 1991 mint mark Lincoln penny, the $1 million penny, is real. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1944. America was deep in the final year of World War II. The U.S. Mint was rushing to make coins from recycled metals because copper was desperately needed for weapons and ammunition. Pennies in 1943 were made of steel coated in zinc, a coin that looked silver, not brown. But in 1944, the mint returned to using copper. Only, something mysterious happened in the transition. A handful of leftover steel blanks, the planchets from 1943, somehow slipped back into the presses in 1944. The result? A coin that shouldn't exist. A 1944 penny, struck in steel. At first, no one noticed. These coins looked ordinary to the untrained eye, often confused with the common 1943 steel cents or dismissed as mistakes. They were passed in pocket change, spent at grocery stores, shoved in piggy banks. For decades, nobody realized they were touching something that could one day be worth over $1 million, but then, one collector stumbled on one at a flea market. Worn, faint, ignored by nearly everyone else. He picked it up for a few dollars. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. That very coin went to auction, tested by experts who could hardly believe their eyes. A genuine 1944 steel cent, with no mint mark. The bidding was fierce. Dealers raised their paddles, collectors gasped, and the price climbed higher and higher until it broke into history. Over $1 million for a single penny. Collectors were shocked. Newspapers ran headlines. And suddenly, treasure hunters everywhere began sifting through jars of old change, hoping to uncover their own miracle. The 1944 no mint mark Lincoln penny is not copper-colored like the pennies you know. It shines gray, steely, magnetic. Many people mistake it for a 1943 steel cent, which is far more common. But the date on this coin is 1944, and that tiny number is the difference between pocket change and $1 million fortune. Imagine finding one in an old drawer, the weight of history and war in your palm, and realizing you're holding something only a handful of people on Earth will ever see. One man's spare change became a $1 million miracle, and it's proof that sometimes the rarest treasures are hiding in plain sight. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these coins, because fewer than 30 genuine examples are believed to exist. Each one is a survivor of a mistake the mint never admitted, a relic of wartime America, and a key to unlocking life-changing money. And here's the reset: don't be fooled by fakes. Many sellers try to alter ordinary 1944 copper cents, plating them to look like steel. The test is simple: grab a magnet. If the coin sticks, and the date reads 1944, you may have stumbled onto the rarest penny of them all. Think of it. A coin worth $1 million could already be in your home. Inherited from a relative, hiding in a coffee can, resting quietly in a forgotten piggy bank, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost went unnoticed. It could have been tossed into a gumball machine, or slipped into a child's piggy bank, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world when it sold for nearly $1.8 million. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another copper coin, worn and dull, passed through decades of American life, but beneath its surface lies a story of error, mystery, and pure chance, a story that turned pocket change into a fortune. You see, 1956 was a massive year for the U.S. Mint. Billions of Lincoln cents were struck, Philadelphia, Denver, coins pouring off the presses, copper clashing on steel dies day and night. No one expected a mistake. No one even imagined that one coin could break away from the rest, but in the chaos of production, something went wrong. An error so subtle, so perfectly hidden, that for decades, nobody noticed. It wasn't until sharp-eyed collectors decades later began spotting strange details, and rumors began spreading of a 1956 penny unlike any other, and when one finally surfaced at auction, jaws dropped. This wasn't just a coin. It was a miracle of survival. A coin born of a minting mystery, and now worth more than a mansion. Dealers rushed to verify it. Was it real? Could a common cent really be worth millions? Experts studied every curve of Lincoln's profile, every letter in Liberty, every ripple around the rim, and then, the verdict came: genuine, not just rare, unique. Collectors were stunned. The ordinary penny, the one everyone ignores, had become a holy grail. One man's pocket change had turned into $1 million miracle. But here's the secret most people miss: the details. Because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune comes down to the smallest clue. A doubling of letters, a die misalignment, a faint anomaly in the strike for the 1956 no mint mark. It's about the telltale doubling in the date and in Liberty. Look closely, the numbers don't just sit flat. They echo, almost like a shadow behind them. That shadow is the whisper of the minting mistake, the hidden mark of rarity. Imagine this: you're sorting through a jar of change, hundreds of pennies pass through your hands, each one forgettable, and then, you stop. You notice something strange: the date seems doubled, the letters blur with a ghost-like outline. This is why collectors everywhere are searching their drawers, their piggy banks, their jars of coins tucked away in basements, because history has shown us it only takes one discovery to change everything. But there's a catch: for every genuine treasure, there are dozens of imposters, damaged coins. Machine doubling. Postman scratches, mistakes that trick beginners into believing they've found gold. That's why it's vital to know exactly what to look for. On the 1956 no mint mark doubled die, the doubling is strong, clear, and consistent, especially in God We Trust across the top. If the doubling looks flat, shelf-like, or inconsistent, chances are it's not the real deal. This is where so many people go wrong. They get excited, they rush, and they miss the fine details, and those details are the difference between disappointment and destiny. Think of the collector who pulled his discovery from a simple roll of pennies he bought at the bank. He thought it was nothing, until a magnifying glass revealed the truth. Within weeks, he was holding a coin worth more than most people's homes, and now the question is simple: will you be the next person to uncover one? Because the odds are slim, but not impossible. Billions of pennies are still out there, still hiding, still waiting to be found. Every time you hold a 1956 penny without a mint mark, you could be holding a fortune. The secret rests in the details, the doubling, the sharpness, the unmistakable markers of history. And remember this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looks so ordinary. A simple Lincoln penny, dated 1958, with no mint mark at all. You've seen 100 just like it in your lifetime. But this one coin, a tiny sliver of copper barely heavier than a feather, hides a secret so powerful, it's shaken the coin world for decades. Because in 1958, deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something happened that wasn't supposed to. A mistake so small most workers never noticed. But it created one of the rarest pennies in U.S. history. A coin that today has sold for as much as $1.70 million. And here's the unbelievable part: most people would walk right past it without a second glance. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In the late 1950s, the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln cents. They were workhorses of the American economy, tossed into lunch counters, jukeboxes, and gas pumps every single day. Nothing special. Nothing rare. Nothing anyone thought twice about. But in 1958, a strange and tiny doubling error occurred. On just a handful of coins, the word Liberty and the date itself showed signs of doubling, like a shadow printed over the letters. Barely visible, but undeniable to a trained eye. And these rare double-die pennies became the stuff of legend. One man discovered his while sifting through loose change. He thought it was a trick of the light. But under magnification, his hands began to shake. The doubling was clear, the lines crisp, the rarity unquestionable. He brought it to an auction house, and collectors went wild. A bidding war erupted. Dealers were calling in from around the world. The room fell silent as the price climbed higher and higher. And when the hammer finally dropped, a single 1958 double-die penny sold for over $1 million, collectors were shocked. Ordinary people were stunned. A 1-cent coin, worth more than most homes, but here's where it gets even more dramatic. Experts believe fewer than 3 examples exist. That's it. 3 pennies, out of billions, with this exact doubling mistake. Which means finding one is like winning the rarest lottery on earth. Now imagine this: you dump out an old coffee can of coins. They've been sitting in the garage for decades. Dusty, forgotten, worthless, or so you think. Your eyes drift past the dates, 1976, 1964, 1982, and then, suddenly, a 1958 penny stares back at you. No mint mark. Ordinary in every way until you tilt it just right under the light, your breath catches. The numbers look doubled. The letters shimmer, almost like a ghost image layered beneath. You lean closer, your heart pounding. Could this be the $1 million coin? Dealers have been known to fly across the country just to inspect one. Auction houses treat them like crown jewels. And the handful of collectors who've actually held one in their hands describe it as life-changing. But what's most shocking is how easy it is to overlook. Some people have spent their entire lives collecting pennies and never once spotted it. Others have found them sitting in pocket change, completely by accident. So how do you know if you're holding the real thing? First, check the date, 1958. Then, look closely at the inscriptions. The word liberty and the date itself should show strong, visible doubling, like the numbers and letters are stamped twice. It's not a blur, it's not damage, it's crisp, sharp, and undeniable. But beware. Many people mistake ordinary wear or coin damage for doubling. True double-die coins have a bold, almost mirror-like split in the letters. And if you see it, don't spend that penny. Don't clean it. Don't scratch it. Get it authenticated immediately. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny was supposed to be worthless. A simple Lincoln cent from 1948. No silver, no gold, no rare metal. Just a coin that millions of Americans spent without a second thought. But one tiny mistake at the U.S. Mint turned it into one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered, a coin worth up to $1.6 million. It's the kind of story that makes collectors shake their heads in disbelief. Imagine the very same coin you might find buried in an old coffee can, or sitting unnoticed in a jar of pennies, hiding a secret powerful enough to change your life overnight. And yet, this is not a rumor. It happened. And it's still happening. The year was 1948. America was recovering from the war, industry was booming, and coins were being struck by the billions. Most 1948 Lincoln cents were nothing special. They rolled out of the presses at the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark at all. But somewhere, deep in the machinery, an error occurred. A detail so small that nearly everyone missed it. And that error created one of the most valuable no-mint mark Lincoln pennies in U.S. history. Collectors would later call it the Writ penny, named after a bizarre and mysterious die flaw that appeared near the motto, "In God We Trust." A microscopic disturbance in the die left the faint impression of the letters Writ, something no engraver had ever intended. It wasn't supposed to be there. It was an accident. But that accident transformed an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But here's where it gets unbelievable. For decades, nobody noticed. These flawed coins circulated in pocket change, slipped across counters, and passed through millions of hands. Shopkeepers, bus drivers, schoolchildren, they all touched a fortune without knowing it. Then one day, a sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first verified 1948 Writ penny surfaced at auction, the bidding was ferocious. Dealers fought tooth and nail. Collectors gasped as the numbers climbed higher and higher. The final hammer price? Well over $1 million. For a single penny, Think about that. A coin you could have spent on a stick of gum in 1948 suddenly selling for more than most people's homes. It shocked the entire hobby. Headlines spread through coin magazines. Forums lit up with speculation. And everyday Americans started digging through their drawers, wondering if they too might be holding the miracle penny. But here's the catch: most people still don't know what to look for. They hold a 1948 penny in their hands, glance at it, and dismiss it as worthless. Yet the difference between a common cent and $1 million treasure comes down to the tiniest detail. So here's the truth you need to know. The rare 1948 writ penny will not show a mint mark beneath the date. That's your first clue. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just a plain 1948. Then, you'll want to look closely at the motto above Lincoln's head, "In God We Trust." On the writ variety, near the letters TRU, you'll see faint but unmistakable ghost-like lettering, an accidental writ etched into the coin by a damaged die. Under magnification, it jumps out like a hidden signature, a whisper from the mint itself. That's the marker that makes it worth a fortune, and this is where collectors get it wrong. They confuse scratches, dents, or dirt for the writ impression. But real experts know the genuine writ letters are subtle, slightly raised, and follow the curve of the motto. They are not random. They are precise. That's the difference between pocket change and $1 million. Now picture this. A man in Ohio once pulled a handful of pennies from his change after buying a cup of coffee. Nothing special until he noticed something odd about one of them. He almost tossed it back into circulation. Instead, he took a closer look. And that decision changed his life. His 1948 writ penny sold for six figures at first, then, years later, another example shattered records at $1.6 million. Collectors are still buzzing about it. Dealers are rushing to check every 1948 Lincoln cent they can find. And you should too. Because unlike so many rarities, this coin is not locked away in museums. It's out there. Hidden in old boxes, inherited coin jars, estate sales, even flea markets. One man's forgotten penny could be another man's miracle. So the next time you come across a 1948 penny, don't ignore it. Study it. Hold it under the light. Look carefully at that motto. If you see those faint ghost letters, if you see the mysterious writ where it doesn't belong, then you may be staring at a life-changing discovery, because the truth is simple: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, yet today, a single example has been valued at nearly $1.5 million. Imagine holding an ordinary penny in your hand, brown, worn, nothing special, and then realizing it could change your life forever. That's the mystery of the 1958 wheat penny with the rare D-mint mark, a coin so elusive that collectors whisper about it as if it were a legend. Back in 1958, the Denver Mint was running millions of Lincoln cents through its presses. Pennies were clinking, stacks were filling, and no one thought twice about them. But somewhere in that endless sea of copper, a mistake slipped through. A rare die, a hidden flaw, something that was never supposed to leave the mint, did. And that tiny error turned a 1-cent coin into a fortune. For years, it went unnoticed. People spent them, tossed them into change jars, dropped them in parking lots. This little coin blended in with the billions of others until sharp-eyed collectors began to realize something was off. This wasn't just any wheat penny. This was a wrong-born survivor of the minting process. A ghost coin that shouldn't exist. In the late 1980s, rumors began circulating that one of these strange 1958 Denver wheat pennies had surfaced. At first, dealers thought it was impossible. They laughed. They said, no such coin was ever made. But then the evidence appeared, a crisp copper cent, bearing the wrong details, a die error so rare it defied the official records. Collectors were shocked. Experts rushed to examine it. And the verdict came back undeniable: this penny was real, and it was priceless. Auction houses began buzzing. A single example changed hands for over $1 million. The headlines made jaws drop across the hobby. Imagine, a penny worth more than a house, more than a sports car, more than most people's retirement savings. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. But the story didn't end there, because once a single coin is discovered, the question echoes everywhere: are there more? Could another one be out there, waiting to be found in an old cigar box, a dusty coin jar in grandma's attic, or even hiding in a forgotten roll of wheat pennies from the bank? Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, offering staggering sums for even the chance to see one. And yet, most collectors will never hold it because spotting it requires an eagle eye and knowledge that almost no one has. On the surface, the 1958 wheat penny looks like any other. The familiar Lincoln portrait on the front. The wheat stalks framing 1 cent on the back. The date, 1958. The mint mark, a bold little D under the date, showing it was struck in Denver. But here's the secret: the true $1 million variety isn't about the mint mark alone. It's about doubling. A die mistake where the lettering and numbers appear doubled, almost like a shadow echoing across the coin. On the rarest 1958 D wheat pennies, this doubling is crisp, dramatic, unmistakable. Look at the date. Look at the word liberty. Look at "In God We Trust." If the letters seem doubled, like they're trembling with a second image, that's the jackpot. That's the detail that turns a penny into a fortune. Collectors who know this truth guard it closely. They flip through rolls, hearts racing, hoping lightning strikes. They scan online auctions, wondering if someone listed one by accident. They dream of being the next person to bring one of these coins to light. And every year, stories trickle in of ordinary people who almost overlooked their miracle penny until a dealer confirmed it was worth more than they ever imagined. But what makes this story so haunting is how fragile it is. One wrong move, one harsh cleaning, and the value vanishes. $1 million coin can turn into a worthless piece of copper if it's scratched or damaged. That's why experts beg collectors: if you think you found it, don't clean it, don't polish it, just protect it and get it authenticated. And now, here's the part that makes this story feel almost unreal. Right now, at this very moment, there are fewer than 5 verified examples of this 1958 doubled die Denver penny in existence. Just 5. Out of the billions of pennies struck that year, only a handful carry the mistake that turned them into treasures. And that's why the value keeps climbing, because rarity drives desire, and desire drives price. But what happened when the first one hit the auction block? Collectors gasped. The bidding shot higher and higher. And when the hammer finally fell, the crowd knew they'd just witnessed history: a simple Lincoln cent selling for over $1 million. That moment changed how people looked at pocket change forever. Suddenly, everyone was asking the same question: could I have one too? If you've got old wheat pennies tucked away, if you've got rolls of coins sitting in the closet, if you've ever brought home a handful of change from a garage sale or an estate auction, you might already have the next $1 million penny in your possession. All it takes is one close look, one spark of recognition, one heartbeat where you realize the coin in your hand isn't ordinary, it's extraordinary. So here's how you identify it. Look at your 1958 wheat pennies. Focus on the ones with the D mint mark. Hold them under good light, tilt them slightly, and look closely at the date and lettering. If you see clean, clear doubling, almost like a faint echo behind each number and letter, you may be staring at a fortune. But be careful. Many coins have slight distortions from wear or machine doubling, and those are worth little. The true $1 million coin has bold, dramatic doubling, sharp and undeniable. That's the one that collectors fight over. Think about it. Right now, that exact penny could be sitting in a coffee can in your garage. It could be in a desk drawer, in a forgotten change jar, or mixed in with a child's coin collection from decades ago. It could be yours, and if it is, it's not just a penny anymore. It's a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1953. The United States Mint in Denver was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies, just another year in the endless river of copper. But in the chaos of steel dies, worn machines, and human error, something extraordinary happened. A tiny, almost invisible mistake. A mark that should never have been there. A ghostly engraving, the wrong letters etched into the die. They called it the 1953 Red D Lincoln cent. And to this day, even the most experienced collectors argue over how this error slipped into circulation. Some say it was a die clash with a master hub. Others whisper it was a rogue engraver's hand, a slip of steel that left behind an impossible inscription. But whatever the truth, the fact remains, this single coin can sell for as much as $1.4 million, but here's the catch: most people will never even notice it. Imagine sifting through a jar of pennies, years of change rattling through your hands, and suddenly spotting letters that don't belong. Not liberty. Not in God we trust. No writ, clear as day, pressed into the surface of Lincoln's face. That one shocking detail is what transforms a 1-cent coin into a fortune. Dealers were stunned when the first example came to light. A small-town collector sent it in, thinking maybe it was worth a few $100s. But when the coin hit the auction block, phones lit up across the country. Bidding wars erupted. One collector described the energy in the room as electric, as if everyone knew they were chasing the holy grail of modern pennies. And when the hammer finally dropped, jaws hit the floor. That single penny had just sold for more than most people's homes, but what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Another example surfaced. Found in an old cigar box at an estate sale. Purchased for just $5 in a pile of common wheat cents. When the new owner examined it under a magnifying glass, his heart stopped. The strange writ letters shimmered back at him from Lincoln's portrait. He rushed it to a grading service, and sure enough, it was the real deal. That penny went on to fetch nearly $1 million on its own. Collectors couldn't believe it. Some began obsessively hoarding every 1953 penny they could find. Coin shops across the Midwest were flooded with rolls of wheat cents, desperate treasure hunters begging dealers to search them. Stories spread of people staying up all night with magnifiers, their hands trembling as they flipped through piles of copper, hoping lightning would strike, but the mystery deepened. Why writ? Why those letters? Some historians believe it was the remains of the word trust from the motto, "In God We Trust," misaligned during the striking process. Others insist it was a bizarre overpolishing accident, letters from a different coin accidentally impressed onto the die. The truth may never be known. And that only fuels the obsession. One thing is certain, the 1953 Rid D penny is not just rare. It's one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. A true once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The kind of coin that turns an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. But here's the secret most people miss. You don't need to be a professional dealer to spot one. All you need is patience, a magnifying glass, and a sharp eye. If you hold a 1953 D penny, look closely at the area above Lincoln's shoulder, near his face, and around the word liberty. If you see faint extra letters, especially something that looks like writ, you might be holding the rarest penny of them all. And beware, many coins have scratches, damage, or random marks that can fool the eye. Most 1953 D pennies are worth just a few cents. Don't mistake a scrape for a fortune. But if those letters are sharp, raised, and clearly part of the strike, you may have just discovered $1 million treasure. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent, lying forgotten in a drawer for 70 years. 1 cent, passed from hand to hand, through gas stations, lunch counters, candy shops, and coffee stands. And then, in the right hands, it explodes in value. The difference between nothing and everything can be just a few tiny letters. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still whispering about it at shows. And the chance of finding one may be small, but it's not zero. In fact, the next one could surface anywhere. So tonight, when you dump out your change, don't just glance at the pennies. Look deeper. Study every detail. Because history has shown that the smallest mistake can rewrite someone's life forever. The 1953 Rid D Lincoln penny is proof of that. A coin born of error, lost in time, and reborn as a legend worth up to $1.4 million. And here's the truth you can't ignore. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine pulling out an old coffee can of pennies, the kind your grandfather kept in the garage. You pour them out onto the table, copper clinking, nothing special, until one coin catches the light. At first glance, it looks ordinary, a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny, no mint mark. Just another face in a sea of billions. But that tiny detail, the missing mint mark, could mean you're holding a life-changing treasure. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers scan every 1940s wheat penny like hunters searching for prey. Why? Because in 1942, deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly wrong. A batch of pennies was struck on experimental planchets, coins that weren't supposed to exist. War was raging overseas, copper was being rationed for ammunition, and the mint was testing alternatives. Somehow, against all odds, a handful slipped through. One of those survivors shocked the coin world at auction, blasting past estimates and climbing toward the unimaginable. The hammer dropped at nearly $1.2 million. That's right, a penny worth more than a mansion, more than most people earn in a lifetime, because the buyer? He wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't a famous collector. He was an ordinary man who'd spent decades checking pocket change, convinced one day he'd strike gold, or in this case, copper. His patience paid off. A single penny transformed his life forever. Look closely, the details matter. These rare survivors usually show razor-sharp lettering, slightly off-color surfaces, and sometimes even a ghostly shine that looks different from ordinary copper. Some appear struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943 experiments, giving them a strange, pale tint. Others hide in plain sight, only distinguishable under magnification. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. They thought it was impossible. Yet here it was, a wartime penny that defied logic, rewriting history with each sale. And every time one appears, bidding wars explode. Dealers race across the floor, desperate to grab what could be the next record breaker. Not all 1942 wheat pennies are valuable. Millions are worth only a cent. The fortune lies in the subtle errors, the absence of a mint mark combined with unusual metal content or striking anomalies. Miss that, and you've thrown away $1 million. Spot it, and you've changed your family's future forever. One story still makes collectors shiver. A man in Ohio bought a jar of pennies at a yard sale for $5. Hidden inside was a flawless 1942 no-mint mark wheat penny, struck on a rare experimental planchet. That $5 gamble turned into a payday of over $1 million. Think about that. Someone's loose change, someone's forgotten jar in a garage, held a fortune greater than gold. And it's not a myth. Auction houses have the records. Collectors have the proof. The coin exists. So how do you know if you found one? First, check the date, 1942, plain Lincoln wheat reverse, no mint mark beneath the date. Next, study the metal. If it looks brighter, lighter, or strangely silvery, don't dismiss it. Compare its weight. A standard copper penny should weigh about 3.11 grams, but these experimental errors can weigh slightly less, sometimes closer to 2.7 grams, even 2.9. That difference is everything. And finally, magnify the details. Weak strikes, doubled edges, or unusual surfaces are clues. When in doubt, never spend it. Never toss it aside. Get it authenticated by a trusted grading service, because you could be holding the next record-shattering find. That penny in your drawer, the one you've ignored for years, could be worth more than $1 million.